February 8th, 2013, 08:56 hours. Investigator Spain, employee number 13062. I'm here with Lieutenant Proctor, employee number 13647, to conduct an interview for internal affairs case 2013. Bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
2013 IA 010. Okay, you have a correctional officer Sumpter that works for you on your shift, right?
I do.
And today's the February the 8th is Friday. Earlier this week, she called out of work.
She did.
It was either on a Monday
That
or
was
a Tuesday.
Monday.
Okay. When she called, did she call in to say, "Hey, I'm not coming," prior to a roll call, or?
I'm not 100% sure. I didn't talk to her. She called one of my sergeants.
Okay.
And said she wasn't coming.
Did she say why?
She said that her car had been stolen.
Okay.
That she had not been home the night before, but when she got to wherever her car was the next morning, in preparation of coming to work, her car was not there. It had been stolen.
Okay. And then, who did she tell this to?
Sergeant Marshal.
What did Sergeant Marshal tell her, or what did Sergeant Marshal tell you that she told her?
She said that Sumpter called and said her car had been stolen.
But I mean, how did Sergeant Marshal respond to Sumpter when she gave her this information?
She didn't tell me word for word what she said.
She said, "Okay." I mean,
basically, yeah, and just to call her back and let her know when she found out something about it.
okay. Did Officer Sumpter ever call back?
I don't know if Sumpter called her or Sergeant Marshal called Sumpter. I had told Sergeant Marshal later in the afternoon, because we hadn't heard from Sumpter,
Right.
to call her to find out what the status was. That was about 4:30, and Sergeant Marshal said she did talk to her. And she said that Sumpter then informed her that it turned out that it hadn't been stolen, it had been towed.
Did she explain why her car was towed?
She didn't. I don't think she explained it, but if she did, Sergeant Marshal didn't tell me. I don't think Sergeant Marshal knew. I don't think
Okay.
she really said much after that.
Did you give Sergeant Marshal any kind of direction on how to go forward with that?
I told Sergeant Marshal that tomorrow when Sumpter came in, we needed to get some paperwork or something from her showing that the car had been towed, just to document why she had been out from work that day.
Okay. I just spoke with Sergeant Marshal. She told me practically the same thing, but she explained to me that she hasn't, to date, received any type of documentation from
Okay.
Officer Sumpter. I'm just letting you know that, since that was a directive coming from you, but that's not. I'm not going to include whether she does or doesn't give you paperwork as part of my case, because it's kind of.
And I was out sick Tuesday. I didn't come in Tuesday, so I didn't get to follow up with that yet.
Okay. How long has Officer Sumpter been assigned to your shift? Roughly. Is it a recent assignment, or has it been a long time?
I'm trying to think. She had. Let's see, yeah, this is B team now. You know, I switched. Me and Maurice Johnson switched at the end of December. I think she was on B team, and she got taken off at B team for a little while to do her and Officer Lockett got taken off the team to do some special detail, like community relations something for a couple of weeks. And then when the new administration came in, she got put back on a team, so she's only been back on the team a couple of weeks.
Were you supervising her in September and in November? The reason I ask is on her payroll, there was a date in September and a date in November that shows her leave without pay. One of the days specifically says no call, no show. The other one, I don't recall if the notes explain why it's a leave without pay status. But in her personnel file, there wasn't any type of disciplinary action. I just didn't know what was the circumstances surrounding those two dates, if you remember or not.
I talked to Sumpter one time over the phone. She was supposed to not leave without pay, because if she had called in, she was supposed to show up one day on an overtime day on my team, and she didn't come. And then she called out sick a few days later or something, and I said, Sumpter, you've already called out, you were supposed to be here for overtime one day last week or whatever, and this is like your second day. And she's like, no, I wasn't supposed to be there. It seems there was some confusion about she was supposed to work for somebody or somebody was supposed to work for her or something. So anyway, I didn't document that because she had what sounded like a legitimate reason at the time.
Yeah, right.
But then I wouldn't have coded her leave without pay for any reason. Not that I can remember.
I don't remember.
Unless I had some documentation for
Yeah, right.
why she wasn't here on when she was supposed to be.
Does she have attendance issues?
You know, it's funny that I was thinking about that this morning. The problem is she hasn't been mine for very long.
Sure, okay, I understand that.
And so I want to say she may have, but it seems like it's not always. I don't want to say yes or no. Without having something to look at.
Okay.
It just kind of seems like it, but without.
I mean, I pulled her payroll. Her start date was April 12th, 2012, and in less than 10 months, she's used 77.5 hours of sick leave, 48 hours annual leave, her personal day, and 2 leave without pay days.
Okay.
So.
That would be like 6 days of sick leave. 77 hours would be. 70 hours would be.
Well, we got
6 days.
48, 77.5, 12, 24, divided by 12. It's 13.5 days of work. And you're only scheduled to work 14 days in a month.
A month, right. So.
So that's 10%.
Yeah, but I don't know. And the thing about it is, I don't think that I can't remember any particular time where she's called out sick and didn't have a doctor's note.
Okay.
As long as they bring a doctor's note, I don't.
It's excused then, in other words.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Like I said, she did call out sick one time on an overtime day, and I talked to her about that. But she seemed at the time to have, and she's only done that one time that I could remember, and she seemed to have what seemed like a legitimate excuse at the time. So, I mean, and there again, she was on the team, then she was off the team, and then I moved to a different team, and so I can't really say.
I got you. There's one more question. Is it true that now if someone calls out sick on a mandatory scheduled overtime day, that date is added to the payroll and coded as sick leave?
That's correct. We've been doing that for a long time.
Okay.
Because what we do is basically a mandatory overtime day is basically, because they've worked so many and we have to have enough people to run the shift,
Sure.
that if they call out sick on a mandatory overtime day, we charge them sick leave.
So, okay, this is a whole other. I'll ask you that later. This is a whole separate. All right. Now I called you a couple days ago, or I think it was 2 days ago, and spoke with you about Officer Sumpter stating that I had some of her uniforms that were covered from the civil section during an eviction, and I asked if she contacted you about that to let me know or have her contact me. Well, she contacted me yesterday and said that she had spoken with you. Can you tell me about that conversation?
Mm-hmm. She called me yesterday and said that she had been staying with a friend, and until she could get her new apartment. She was fixing to move into a new place. Well, she didn't say apartment, a place.
Okay.
She said she was fixing to move into a new place, but in the interim, before she could move into the new place, she had been staying with a person, a friend of hers, who had gotten evicted. And that during the eviction, she assumed whoever did the eviction had gotten, she said her uniforms and her county stuff was gone. And she assumed that the officer who did the eviction had her stuff, but she didn't know that for sure, and she didn't know who to contact, she didn't know where to find them. And I told her that I knew about it, that you had called me and said that you had been given her stuff, and for her to contact you. That was the end of the conversation. I told her to contact you, and she said she would.
Have you spoken with her since then?
Mm-mm.
Okay. When she contacted me, we made arrangements. She came into the office, met with me, turned over the property that I was given from the civil section, turned it over to her, and documented. I even did an equipment inventory just to show, hey, this is being reissued to you. There was 3 BDU blue uniform pants, 2 long sleeve blue BDU uniform tops, 3 blue uniform golf shirts, 1 nylon waist belt, her sheriff's office ID card, and her sheriff's office key card, security door key card. There was some personal items in there as well. There was some personal property that belonged to her, not the county. 2 black T-shirts belonged to her, not the county. So I documented all the county property and turned it over to her. But I also said what I didn't get was a radio, batteries, charger, flashlight, duty belt, gear holders, like, cuff cases and OC cases, OC handcuffs, handcuff keys, whatever else, boots. So I explained to her that, there was also a jacket included in that I did get. And turned back over to her. I explained to her that if she's missing any property, that she needs to notify her supervisor and do a report. So just to let you know. I don't know if she's missing any or not, but we'll see. Okay. Thank you. I don't really have any more questions. That's all I need to know is how y'all's conversation went and kind of get a background about why she was out earlier in the week.
Yeah, that's all I know. Is I never got to talk to her, and Sergeant Marshall had talked to her, and so I didn't have any reason to talk to her after Sergeant Marshall talked to her. But that's what she had told us, was that her car had gotten towed.
Okay.
No, first, it had gotten stolen, which, I'm sure that would traumatize some people. I guess if my car got stolen, I would be kind of traumatized, and so I wasn't really pushing the issue about, well, she has to come to work anyway or something. If your car gets stolen, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, sure.
But that's why I did tell Sergeant Marshall, later in the day, just try to get a hold of her and see what the status was. Well, then about 4:30, it turns out it didn't get stolen, it got towed, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's going to be it. So it concludes the interview. It's 09:08 hours.